What's up, y'all? Welcome into the LA Sports Brotherhood. It's me, Ryan, here with my brother Matthew. We're a couple days post USC dominating at home against an inferior opponent, Utah State, for, I would argue, tell me if you disagree, literally the first time since Lincoln Riley's been here. Like, this is the first time we've felt like the clear superpower. We are dominating you. You're not getting a single thing from us. And they literally did it. They won 48-0, the first shutout in the Lincoln Riley era. For Lincoln Riley head coach teams, it's only the second shutout he's ever had, which is crazy to think about, honestly. I guess not so crazy considering who he kept as his coordinator for a while. But yeah, so it's Utah State. There are some flashes. We could certainly talk about that. But I kind of want to use this video. You could take this wherever you want. But taking in 2 weeks of context now against an opponent that we consider to be good, but not like elite, but a genuine challenge. And now Utah State, which was a type of challenge in its own right. But so yeah, after 2 weeks of evaluation for them, Matt, how are we feeling? What are the prevailing sentiments to you?
I'm very, very pleased with this USC team. I want to say pleasantly surprised, although I did predict them to be 2-0 at this point. It's just,
Yeah,
I think the way it's happened, is kind of just been picture perfect. I mean, you have key defensive stops in the LSU game. Like the defense won that game because of stops they were able to get in the red zone. And then, of course, week two goes absolutely perfect. You get that shutout, like you said, only Lincoln's second in his career as a coach. So that plus Notre Dame losing, who's on our schedule,
mm,
Michigan losing very, very in embarrassing fashion on our schedule, Penn State struggling against Bowling Green, also on our schedule. By the way, two of those games are at home, and one of those, if one was going to be on the road, I would pick it to be the Michigan in week four before they get stuff, settled. So this season honestly kind of has gone as close to perfect as it possibly could have.
yeah,
And I am very, very pleased. I think coaching is one thing, but we also just have standout players. I'm not really going to touch offense. Offense is elite. We all know that. But like Gentry is a legit, just amazing football player. He was the player of the game. Just incredible game from him. Kamari Ramsey looks like the next great, Trojan safety. Covington's been playing great in tackling. Vance has been playing great in tackling. Achille Arnold, Cameron Fountain showed some really great flash. I
yeah.
mean, these players just look different. They're well coached. I mean, D'Anton Lynn, that guy is going to make a hell of a lot of money. He's done such a great job. I really do think that this first 2 weeks of the season couldn't have gone any better. And now you have we saw a perfect game plan to go into Ann Arbor and beat them. We had a week to be, kind of vanilla against Utah State. Now we have a bye week. Everything is lining up to go and beat Michigan, and we'll talk more on that later.
Yeah, I fully agree. Everything you're saying definitely makes sense. I'm very happy that Gentry got his chance to shine. Because even last week he played a lot, but he wasn't like the full time guy. Mason Cobb wasn't out, which is unfortunate because I would have liked to seen him build on some actual positive momentum. But it gave, I think, maybe not coaches because they put him in, but fans who thought like just saw Grinch's defense last year and assumed everyone was bad, or I don't know. But Gentry, as I was saying last year, Gentry would not have saved the team last year. But and I think he showed it today, or excuse me, against Utah State. He is by far the most talented linebacker they have. And I've made this comparison before, and it sounds pretty silly, but I kind of think he is cursed by his body the same way Max Williams was. Not the same way, because it's the exact opposite, but it's like, you're not the size you should be at the position. Gentry is so tall that I think coaches, including Grinch, kind of felt like there was no way he could really play as a genuine will linebacker. But he can, and he's great at it. He's playing on the line, like going body to body with big tight ends and like even tackles sometimes against LSU, and he's winning those matchups, which you would never expect from a wiry 6'6" guy with a super high center of gravity. Like, I don't know. I spent some time on him specifically because I think he's great. He's probably him and Ramsey. I think you're the first two you mentioned as well. They're by far the best blend of like physical ability and football knowledge and ability to make plays. Like, They're actually good. And I liked Mason Cobb in his little role, but Gentry's always been better than him to me, and I hope that the play disparity kind of continues to go in favor, or not disparity, but like Gentry gets more minutes.
Yeah, I mean, he's a game. I mean, he is like a game changer because of that unique skill set. His ability to put his hand up and pick a pass. He's a great pass rusher because he's so quick and he's so long and get to the to the quarterback.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna be uploading a defensive breakdown, and he is just all over that video because he is one of those game changers. And the more game changers you can have with Deanton Lynn, it's gonna be special. But yeah, I mean, the offense was also great. Kind of combining just early season thoughts. I was really happy that they just ran the ball down Utah State's throat. I mean, it's not much of a feat. I mean, it's Utah State, but just the fact that Quentin Joyner got that breakout game, he looked fantastic. He looked explosive, great vision, patience, and that's going to me is what's going to define the season. If we can run the ball against these elite defenses of Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, if we can run the ball effectively, we will beat all three of those teams. And there's really not a doubt in my mind because what all three of those teams have in common, more so Notre Dame and Michigan, they just have a pathetic offense, like straight up bad.
yeah,
So if we can run the ball, obviously it's not going to be the way we ran the ball against Utah State, but if we have a successful running attack, we will win a lot of these games, and we have the backs for it. It's just going to come down to can this O line develop? Thought they were impressive, but again, not much to tell about Utah State. And honestly, I think that's going to be the most important thing all year. So, what did you think about the O line? So far this season, not just Utah State.
yeah. I think like obviously Utah State, it's not a big check mark, but I think weirdly, at least for me, it kind of was because like we talked about it earlier, they haven't dominated a team ever. Actually, that's not true. Stanford last year, which is crazy because somehow they were able to get stops. Regardless, even then, like you, um, the offensive line held their own against LSU. It was a battle. They won. They did win some battles. They lost some battles. I think that's fine. Inexperienced, they're physical. They showed they could stand up to it. But in the fourth quarter, they were actually able to get downhill. Like most the second half, but the fourth quarter, Woody was able to get downhill. Joyner, when he was in, was picking up not chunk yardage, but kind of 7-8 yards when it was just going nowhere before. And I thought they were able to carry over that momentum greatly from second half of LSU to Utah State, and it really showed. Like the push was great, the physicality was there. There was like they imposed their will on people, and that's what you need to see. Because if it was like yeah, they say yeah it's Utah State, but they're still like big guys. Like you need to be able to move them out of the way, and they did. And also, I think the offensive line is a little bit less of a worry in run blocking. One, because they're massive, but two, because Joyner and Marks go downhill so quickly. They get vertical immediately, and Marshawn Lloyd got drafted in the third round. He'll probably go like in terms of like draft order wise, he'd probably be before Woody Marks. Like Woody Marks probably not gonna be a top 3 pick just for testing wise and like talent and stuff. I'm so much more comfortable with Marks getting the ball than Lloyd. Not just the fumble stuff, but like Marks is still split very wide, but he's taking a sidestep and planting and going upfield. He's taking one cut and going upfield. When you have zone blocking schemes, which they run sometimes because they pull a lot too, but even in the zone schemes, you have to be able to make a cut and go upfield because that's what the zone blocking left or right is what it's for. You're not going matchup to matchup. You're filling a lane and you're finding somebody, and those create the holes between gaps. You don't know which hole it's going to be. Sometimes, depending on the alignment of the D line, it's going to change. So you have to be able to read that, plant, and get upfield. And Lloyd never did that. He's crazy talented, so he could run around some people. But seeing Marks and Joyner just go downhill, it changes so much. Like it's so much more effective. Even if the O line doesn't get great push or kind of get beat across, if you could be vertical, you're not going to lose yards a lot. And that genuinely changes a lot for me on the offense.
Yeah, I think that's not the biggest surprise, but that's been like the most assuring thing so far this season has been those two backs where it's like, yes, they are exactly what I thought they were, exactly who we needed. Like you said, they're so great running downhill.
Yeah.
And the preview video for the season was we got some physical, strong dudes on the O line, especially the interior of the O line. If we have backs that can go downhill, there is a lot of potential for this running scheme, and I think it's been good so far. Last thing I'll say, the only thing we really haven't touched has been the receivers, and right now there's not really a guy. In fact, the leading receiver is Lake McCree, and I don't think
Mm.
that's a problem. It's like an eight deep room with just tons of talent, and that's not a problem. They've all showed flashes. They're all great. As long as we're getting the ball out and they're making completions, it's not a problem. What could be a problem is if there's not that go-to guy in third down that Jordan Addison was.
Yeah.
What we didn't have last year. I love Taj, but he wasn't that guy that could line up, in the X and win a one-on-one matchup, and use that size. That 6'2" guy, fast, quick. So that is the only potential problem with that group if we don't get that guy. I think we have a lot of candidates for that guy. So, do you think that's a problem? Do you think we don't have like a number one?
I think it's funny because in our preseason short, I said Makai Lemon. I think he has like 2 catches on the year. He hasn't looked bad, but it's just like we're spreading the ball around a lot. I think Jacoby Lane is becoming that guy. I know he dropped a touchdown, but that was his target. And fourth quarter downfield, he had on the broken play for the touchdown he scored was him. Like he was split out wide by himself. And then on the third down, on I think it was the last drive, he had a super strong hands catch. And he's not creating a bunch of separation. He's really smart with his hands. Like on that touchdown he scored against LSU, he pushed off at the perfect time. So like he's a smart receiver. His catch radius is crazy, and he has crazy strong hands. I know he dropped it, but that's gonna happen sometimes. I think until Deuce gets consistent time or can run routes that aren't goes or like 20-yard posts or corners, and until Zach Branch can catch a ball be in front of the line of scrimmage, it's gonna be Lane, and I think that's fine. Lane is a super good candidate because you can use him in different ways, and he's a good enough route runner, and he's quick enough that he could still run like classic traditional routes, and it's not just a jump ball guy. So yeah, I think Lane's gonna be that guy. Lemon's such a good route runner. I think he'll eventually evolve. And yeah, I think we're still waiting, and it's 2 games into the season, so by far not giving up at all. But my issue with the high end talent on this in this receiving core is still bearing out. Deuce is kind of a gadget, or he's not a gadget guy, but he's a go ball guy. He's just going straight, and he's good at that. And if they line him up the right way, and he's matched up against safeties, he'll catch one like he did against LSU. And Zach Branch is catching screens and getting reverse pitches to him that are fumbled. Like he needs to be a receiver, and he will. I have no doubt about that. But like he's by far the most talented offensive player we have, just like with the ball in his hands. So he needs the ball in his hands and more than just like, okay, we ran the screen for you. That's my biggest thing still.
Yeah, again, very last thing I'll say. Right now, it's a great offense. If Zach Branch becomes an elite receiver that catches ball downfield, it becomes like top two, maybe the best. He is that level of talent, like
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill ceiling level of talent. He's unbelievable. Like, so if he can become that weapon, that takes this offense to a whole nother level. So I'm just praying that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I harp on it so much because he changes the ceiling of this offense very significantly if he's a genuine route runner with that danger. But yeah, I think they've looked incredible. I was confident going into the Michigan game. Obviously, in our preview, we said probably a loss, but I mean, like a close loss, we'll see. I think it's not fair to change expectations mid-season because it just creates that like this weird pressure chamber. But I don't care. They should win in Michigan. I'm going into that game in 2 weeks, and I'm like, yeah, I think they're gonna win. I'm gonna be very confident about that. I'm sure you feel the same way. But yeah, we'll be back with a lot more Trojan stuff, Michigan preview. Like Matthew said, he got his defensive breakdowns coming. We're ready. Go Trojans, fight on.